Ricky the Dragon Steamboat talking at you. Hall of Fame 2009, and you are listening to the No Gimmicks podcast.
What's good, everybody? It's your boy Todd Smith here once again alongside my tag team partner Dale Clifford out there in Fernley, Nevada. Welcome to yet another episode of the No Gimmicks podcast, broadcasting on the 3 and Out Radio Network. Shout out to Mr. Trace Nye. Dale, what is good, my man?
Well, here I am again trying to say that what is good is not a WWE pay-per-view. We have when the majority of the matches are what you would consider not good, then I'm going to say the pay-per-view's not good. But then again, it's like I don't know. It's like we'll discuss more as we go through it. But maybe I could talk myself into a better grade how we kind of break this thing down. We'll see how it goes.
Let's see if we can make that happen. So welcome to our good, the bad, and the ugly of SmackDown's WWE Battleground. So let's start off here with the main event. We had the Maharaja, Jinder Mahal, taking on the Viper, Randy Orton, for the WWE title, held inside of a Punjabi prison, which looked like a giant freaking bird cage, in my opinion. So for the good here, we have Randy Orton really does not look weak in this loss, based upon the fact that he virtually had to defeat 4 opponents. I said before the show, I think just about every Indian wrestler who is involved in wrestling currently seemed to be involved in this match. Dale, what's your take on that?
Yeah, as you're pointing out, I think the only one not involved in this was Sanjay Dutt.
Sanjay Dutt.
I don't know. It was very tough to find some goods in this match. It just seemed, maybe the best part of this match was the entrances for both Jinder Mahal and Randy Orton. The effects that they have for both of those guys, like the rolling red carpet, and then obviously the Viper that Orton walks over. Very good. I don't know. There just seems so many bad things about this match. When you have one of the Singh brothers squeeze through the one of the cells, and then it almost kind of and then you almost start to see at the end Great Khali start pulling Randy Orton. I'm like, I think they could have squeezed through the cell the entire damn time.
Yeah. Yeah. I can honestly say, this one here, it just seemed long, outdrawn, and overbooked. And that was the bad of this match. This match lasted almost a half hour. And I remember saying to myself, I said, gosh, this is boring. And I said, not only that, they're going to run over. I said, this show is going to run over by about 10 or 15 minutes. Is it really necessary to have a 3-hour and 15-minute long pay-per-view for a brand pay-per-view? Dale, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll say it's like at least they're giving time to the WWE Championship match. But that, again, though, is part of the bad thing. Is like this one didn't need it.
Yeah, agreed.
They expanded too much of the early stage of the match. When you've got the cages, the doors that you can raise and then lower, I just think it took too long for them to get to all 4 of them.
Yes.
Before then, it became a matter of now you have to climb out to escape, and then lo and behold, you have the Singh brothers. And then at first you're like, how'd they get in there? And then you realize that both of them can squeeze through the outside, so it really wouldn't have mattered where they came from. They would have been able to make it anyway.
Yes, and then, of course, we get the return of the Great Khali. And so we're assuming that he's going to be a part of stable, moving forward. So it'll be basically him as their enforcer. You have the 2 goons and the, and the Singh bros, and then Jinder, who's pretty much being protected by all 3. Moving on to the ugly of this match, we had Samir Singh, who took flight and dropped 15 feet from off the structure through the announcer's table due to Randy Orton. So, Dale, what's your thoughts on the ugly of this match?
A much better bump here from Samir than Shane McMahon took off the Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania. I'll say that.
I'll give him that.
Samir Singh's not the owner's son either.
Yeah, and that guy, for being as small as he is, he seems pretty durable because he's taking some nice looking bumps. Was he the one who took the bat drops through the table from Orton? I think recently.
No, it's like Orton's actually given one to each one of the brothers.
Okay, so it's been each of them.
Both. But they both did the fold over the table there. It was like, and then obviously Samir went crashing through. It was like very nice bump here, good spot. It kind of lifted the match up from where it was, and then basically as soon as that happened, it seemed like the crowd got into the match.
Yeah, agreed.
So that was a good thing. Is like I had tweeted out like the best part of this match was the Singh brothers.
Yes, and their involvement.
And then you had the return of the Great Khali, which had been a rumored thing. Basically, WWE had there had been rumors coming out that WWE was going to try something big for, or was planning something big for the Punjabi Prison match. And then you see the spot by the Singh brother, and then you're like, I'm not sure if that was quite it or not. It's like, and then obviously you have Great Khali come back, and now Jinder's the champion. He's headed to SummerSlam, and now it's trying to figure out who's going to be the challenger, because this is now it's time for him to move forward from Randy Orton.
Yep. All right. So speaking of moving forward, we're going to move on to the next match of the Battleground pay-per-view. We have April's favorite wrestler, that being Sami Zayn, who took on a pay-per-view debuting Mr. Mike Kanellis alongside his wife Maria. So for the good for this one, Zayn gets a win on a pay-per-view. I'm quite sure April doesn't approve, but Dale, what's your thoughts?
No, I definitely think this is a good thing for Sami Zayn fans to finally see him get a win at a pay-per-view. One funny thing that I kind of want to make note of, he tweeted out about the victory at Battleground, but he was getting a little bit of flack because the hashtag that he put on there was the one where the word battle was misspelled.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sammy, you just can't get it right, can you? Man. Okay. So moving on to the bad of this match. On the other side of things, we got to say Mike Kanellis comes up short on his WWE pay-per-view debut. So what's next, you think, for this guy, Dale?
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, obviously you have the tough part here is we're glad to see Sami Zayn finally win. Is like it's a guy that I think needs to move up the ladder a little bit more than what we've seen from him. Although the reason why my wife doesn't really like him is because he hasn't really done anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, is like you have the new star, Mike Kanellis, and the returning Maria Kanellis, and his first pay-per-view match, he loses. So to me, it's like this is bad because he's your brand new star. It's like, are we already moving past him?
Yeah.
Is Mike Kanellis done?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what's the future here now hold for Mike Kanellis? Because you're like, he's had two matches, both with Sami Zayn, 1-1, but the pay-per-view match always resonates with a higher elevation of how it's like whether you win or lose. And he lost his debut pay-per-view match. So you're like, where's he going from here?
Yeah, I mean, I can honestly say I was a bit surprised when they chose to bring him straight up to the main roster and he didn't wind up on NXT. You agree with that?
Yeah. Completely agree. But that's kind of the thing. Is like, as I've said, not too many guys go up to the main roster and then back.
Right.
Drew McIntyre, you can say, kind of did it, but he had to leave the company and then came back.
Mm-hmm.
So this is if Kanellis is going to work, they've got to try to figure out on the main roster where he's likely going back to Impact Wrestling or Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
If this run don't work, it's like he's not going to go to NXT.
Yeah, I agree with you. So now let's talk about the ugly of this match. We both kind of said, in terms of what actually took place during the match, we couldn't really find anything ugly. But my goodness, man. Mike, where'd you get those pants from? They kind of remind me of the tights that the late, great Ravishing Rick Rude used to wear around the time, especially when he was feuding with Jake the Snake Roberts, when he would have Cheryl's face on his tights and all that. What's your take on that, Dale?
Yeah, they're not terrible. It's like, I'm assuming it's an image of Maria Kanellis on the one leg.
I think that's what it was, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But we bagged on his entrance when he made the debut of Money in the Bank, and now we're kind of picking on the pants. It's like more so it's like the ugly could be really the run here so far for Mike Kanellis.
Mm-hmm.
We aren't really getting all that overwhelmed with it.
No, we're not. And it's crazy to think this, but I will say, I think he had a stronger debut in Impact as the Miracle.
Yes, I will agree with that, absolutely.
They're doing the whole cuckold thing with him. My man took his wife's name as his last name. So, that almost kind of buried him from the very get-go. So, yeah, they got to try to find some way to dig themselves out of this hole. So moving on here, we've got John Cena taking on Rusev in a flag match. I almost wanted to call it a capture the flag match because of the way that they designed this thing. But the good basically was, John Cena, he actually comes out victorious in this, climbing the stairs, and he delivers an attitude adjustment to Rusev through 2 tables, which were down below the podium that they kind of set their flags up on. Dale, what's your thoughts on this?
Oh, I'll get to this. But let's go to Fashion Files after this. Yeah, as soon as I thought that the good. I did not like the result of this. I do believe that John Cena himself said it. His days are numbered, and here we are at a pay-per-view where you have a chance to elevate Rusev to up the ladder of contender. And obviously, he just made the shift to SmackDown. He just came back from injury. He's like, this is a great chance to kind of re-elevate him. And there you are. It's like you continue. Obviously, we have a huge American pride here, but this is different. This is WWE storyline based. Rusev should have won this match. But the good from it, as I do want to say, is another strength element from John Cena to have Rusev on the shoulders, climb the stairs, and then deliver the attitude adjustment through the tables.
Yes. So now talking about, like having pride and whatnot, one of the things that you pointed out for the bad here, both countries' flags got disrespected during this match. We've always believed that it's anti-patriotic to have the flag on the ground. And we saw that quite a bit throughout this match for both flags. So elaborate on that a little bit, Dale.
Yeah, I understand it's a flag match. It's and these things are supposed to likely happen. But to me, it was it's just a big dislike to me is that you end up in this match having both flags. It's fall to the mat is the one thing. But then that was things when they're on the when they're going between the ring to where the ramps were, you have it falling on the stage, rolling around on the ground. It's wait a minute. It was one of the biggest things we've always been taught is never let the American flag hit the ground. It's and the American flag is rolling around on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not cool. But let's talk about the ugly real quick and then get on to our next topic here. So John Cena actually went for a leg drop, and it got countered into a power bomb by Rusev. You got a better look at this than I did, so go ahead and explain to our viewers how it all went down, Dale.
Yeah, we know the typical spot that John Cena goes to the top rope and he goes up for that leg drop. Rusev went to counter it and threw it into a power bomb, but he kind of fell backwards, and John Cena just falls down instead of him kind of catching him and putting him into a power bomb. Obviously, we know it's these are two big boys. And then obviously the momentum of Cena is it would be a pretty good feat if Rusev is able to just take John Cena straight down to the ground for a power bomb. So I get it, but yeah, it wasn't clean.
Okay, yeah, so kind of some sloppy execution there. So now let's talk about this whole thing that they have going on with Fandango and Tyler Breeze. So we got the Fashion X-Files. And so they have a little backstage, meeting with the Ascension. The Ascension tries to own up and say, hey, we were the ones who attacked you guys and trashed your office, that whole thing. And then basically they called them out on their BS saying, well, you guys weren't even here. You guys were at a show, and then the lights go out and there's whole, big scuffle going on, whatnot. And we see those two being Tyler Breeze and Fandango laid on the floor. So apparently there's a new tag team that's probably going to show up here, or a tag team that's been off screen for a while. Who do we think are the culprits, Dale? Who do you believe is attacking Tyler Breeze and Fandango?
Well, I absolutely think the Fashion Files is just a fantastic segment. It's good comedy, and they finally found a way to make Fandango and Tyler Breeze work. Mm-hmm. And I also thought this segment was great just because they played off of how disappointing the last go around was, where it was the Ascension. Yeah, they ran it around this time, and they're like, oh, and then that was even things like Tyler Breeze brought up is you guys are disappointed. It's why would it be you guys? It's and then Fandango obviously is you guys weren't here, it wasn't you. So now I think we're now finally building to maybe the tag team reveal that we thought we were going to have a month or so ago. But that, and I think this one's going to lead into SummerSlam with the tag team. But that is the question: who is that tag team? So me and you were talking. Is I saw a couple people on Twitter maybe bring up Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. Maybe. Because you're trying to think of a tag team that isn't on television right now or is NXT. I can't really think of too many in NXT. And another one of that I kind of just popped up to me because they're rumored to be on the way to WWE is Rowan, Hansen, War Machine. Yep. But I don't know if they're going to get the straight treatment all the way up from to the main roster.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I get Mike Kanellis, but he was an Impact. You kind of get that transition. It was like WWE like treats Impact is on the level of their NXT.
Mm-hmm.
So you can make that jump. It's like, but Ring of Honor to me is not quite there. It's like if you're in Ring of Honor, like I don't want to put you in NXT and then up. So that's where War Machine's at. I don't think I don't think it would be them. So that's just the thing. It's like, who is it?
And it's funny because I brought up a name of a tag team that's kind of disappeared from TV throughout the transition from Impact going to, becoming Global Force Wrestling, and that being the Tribunal. Those guys just disappeared. And we're talking about 2 former NXT guys as well. I think it was Baron Datz and Basil Baraka. Was that their names? Those guys just freaking disappeared. So, hey, just a guess, because like I said, I can't really think of any other tag teams from NXT that are ready to make that jump, or anyone from Raw who will possibly cross over. So I guess only time will tell, but this will definitely be
I was thinking possibly AOP, but this doesn't seem like a good way to bring them in because there's no Paul Ellering. You're not seeing Paul Ellering here, and he's going to have to carry them wherever they go. So.
Yeah, those guys, I think they will lose the titles, and then they will make their move up to the main roster. So it might be a little while before we get that. So moving on here to the next match from the WWE Battleground pay-per-view, we had the face of the United States, Kevin Owens, taking on AJ Styles for the United States title. So the good for this one we said was, although not at the top of either of our lists, these guys still put on a pretty solid effort. Dale, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's just the thing. It's like you put these 2 guys in there and everybody's going to want to watch it because we know what their history is. But I think that also brings a lot of high expectation. And to me, this feud hasn't delivered the match qualities with these 2 men. And that's kind of why I say it's like the good is that the match was good, but I really believe these 2 can be great in the ring. It's like we've seen it. We know it's out there. And that's part of where I think I get frustrated with the bad and the ugly. A part of this is how WWE is putting these 2 together.
Yeah, I can honestly say, this was a disappointing one here. And moving on to the bad, we said that it was really just kind of an anticlimactic finish, ending and kind of a meaningless U.S. title reign for AJ Styles. And you truly believe that title change took place at Madison Square Garden a couple of weeks ago, just pretty much to kind of boost the interest to try to get people to come to house shows. Big things like that actually take place on a televised show. So elaborate on that a little bit, Dale.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of what I'm trying to throw out there as a reasoning of why you would make the title change. I guess maybe it helps the fact that you can extend the feud maybe again, because now say Kevin Owens is the champion coming in here and he wins, and now he's defeated AJ Styles technically twice. Maybe you think the feud is over. But with it going this way, is like you can put them together one more time at SummerSlam. Maybe that's the chance that we'll have the big breakout match between them when the lights on WWE are the brightest. That's what I'm kind of hoping. So it was like, we'll see. But yeah, that's just kind of where I am on this one. The reason why I say anticlimactic is I saw it coming. It's like you had the ref bump and the camera angle. You saw the ref positioned behind AJ and Kevin as they're working, and you saw the ref working to make sure that he was in position to not see AJ Styles' shoulders. It's like, I know exactly how this is going to end before it happened. It's like, and then you rolled him up and he counted to 3. It's like I knew you saw it coming.
Yeah. You saw it coming from a mile away. I had almost thought that they were teasing the whole, both guys' shoulders were down, and then he was going to say, okay, match is over, but then, who's the winner? That whole thing. But they decided not to go in that direction. For the ugly here, another botched power bomb. Not a good night for power bombs, I guess. AJ Styles executed his human torture rack, which is usually dropped into a power bomb on Kevin Owens, and it just did not quite end well. Dill, what do you have to say about that one?
Well, this one's one of those where it's an impressive move from AJ, but remember, he is still a fairly smaller guy, and Kevin Owens is a bigger guy. It's one of those that if they manage to pull it off, you're like, wow, that's impressive for them to do it. And then when they don't, you're like, you got to take the 2 parties for part of the way we're going here. AJ's a small guy and Kevin Owens is a bigger guy. So when it doesn't work, you're like, yeah, you can kind of see why it wouldn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so now we're going to move on to the next match here. We had a fatal five-way for the number one contendership for the SmackDown women's title, that is. We had Charlotte taking on Natalya versus Becky Lynch versus Tamina versus Lana. So the good of this one, we mutually agreed here very, very quickly that anyone besides Lana would win this match, and that's what happened. So, Dale, go ahead on that.
Yeah, so obviously we know that she's not ready, but my wife made the point in this one is that about Lana. She just kind of brought up is like, is Lana just not ready, or is she that bad? And I was like, no, she's that bad. It was like
that bad.
My wife's like her just moves. It's clunky. It's like she's not very crisp in there at all. And you can kind of tell is like that WWE just put her out there because they had to. They also want her out there because of the way she looks. Is like they want beauty at the top of the roster, but again, it's like, but it's like we're supposed to be in the rise of the women's revolution. The beauty shouldn't matter anymore. It's like unless it's beauty about how they wrestle in the ring.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself on that one. But yeah, the bad here was the fact that, Charlotte, once again, she was the one who carried this match, yet she will not be in the title match at SummerSlam. So what do you have to add to that, Dale?
I don't know. Nothing against Natalya, but I'm not excited about a Naomi Natalya women's titles match at SummerSlam.
Me neither. Yeah.
And I was like, and I'm highly disappointed about the best women's wrestler in WWE not having a chance to fight for a title at the second biggest pay-per-view in the company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And I think Natalya is going to really carry that one. Naomi, I like Naomi and whatnot, and she's very athletic and whatnot, so I think she's definitely carryable to something decent. But yeah, I would have much preferred to see Charlotte involved in this one here. So the ugly of this match would definitely have to be the spear. Tamina nailed Charlotte with a spear from off the apron to the floor, and she kind of wound up falling a little awkwardly herself. Well, what do you have to add to that, Dale?
Yeah, Tamina went for a spear of Charlotte. Charlotte fell out, and then Tamina kind of rolled over the middle rope to the outside. And I was like, that you don't see a spear all the way to the floor very often.
No.
But there's a person in the WWE that does it. Big E is like, and it's always amazing when he does it because it's like he carries it all the way to the floor. Mm-hmm. So when you kind of see someone hit the spear spot and then kind of just tumble out of the ring, you're like, that didn't look so great.
Mm-hmm.
But so like there's that ugly. Before the match started though, because Naomi was ringside, I was like, the guaranteed ugly in this, to me, over anything else, is what Naomi has done to the women's championship. And for that alone, I hope Natalya wins at SummerSlam because the neon glowing championship to go away.
Yeah, that is hideous. I mean, about the last time I remember seeing something that ugly on a WWE title belt was probably when Cena used to have it. I was not a fan of like the different iterations of what Cena did with the belt, with like the spinner and all that stuff. Even when Edge had it, because I think he had the spinning R logo or something like that. I didn't like that at all. Keep that for rims, man, not for title belts in pro wrestling. So moving on here, we had Shinsuke Nakamura taking on Baron Corbin. The good about this one is, basically we will get a rematch. And the rematch will most likely take place at SummerSlam. So, Dale, what's your thoughts on that?
So that's the thing. Is like we're kind of carrying all of these matches into the presumption of where they're going to be at SummerSlam.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is like you got to think how many of these are actually. You got to figure SummerSlam is going to be 4 hours, probably 10 matches. So maybe 5 or so from each brand. You'd think maybe, I don't know, but they're probably going to go more one-sided for Raw than SmackDown, maybe like a 6-4 ratio. So that's the thing. Now you're starting to see how some of these things go together. And you're kind of trying to wonder whether or not this one carries itself to SummerSlam. And you're like, really, SummerSlam, you're going to put Shinsuke Nakamura versus Baron Corbin. But when you look at it, who is Shinsuke going to face besides Baron Corbin right now at SummerSlam?
Yeah, Yeah, it's a good question. And I mean, basically, we were given the cheap finish tonight, because neither guy can really, afford to lose right now. I mean, you have anything to add to that?
No, that's another good thing is like you can't. It's kind of a little bit of reverse Mike Kanellis here. It's like you don't want Shinsuke losing to Baron Corbin. Was that we're really losing it all because he kind of loses some momentum with losses. They say wins and losses don't matter, but they kind of do. It's like you bound up too many losses and then all of a sudden you lose momentum. And Shinsuke's made roster appearance so far has not really had a lot of momentum. Everybody's loving the entrance still, but really when it comes to matches and everything else, he's not rising.
No.
And then obviously Baron Corbin's Money in the Bank, you don't want him taking too many steps backwards because he's Money in the Bank, which it means that he's supposed to eventually become WWE champion. You've had guys with the briefcase kind of start going down the ladder, and then all of a sudden they use the cash in to win the championship to rebound and climb back up. But you kind of would rather have the Money in the Bank holder kind of still be a guy you're expecting to carry the championship going forward when he finally cashes in.
I'm going to say something really quick here. I'm just going to throw this out. I know we don't have time for too much discussion. I like Shinsuke Nakamura. I've been a fan of him since he was in New Japan, but I will say this. His moveset is extremely one-dimensional. He needs to develop something else besides the strikes. I know he's not a grappler, but give him at least a couple other moves to throw in there because he does that inverted suplex every once in a while. Everything else he uses is either a kick or some sort of a knee strike. He's got to at least elaborate his moveset a little bit. But moving on here. The Ugly, my goodness. Baron Corbin would have done Stan the Lariat Hansen proud with that clothesline. Am I not right? He flipped Nakamura's ass inside out. Literally, and I could tell he just hit him so damn hard with that clothesline, man. The dude literally landed on his head. So what do you have to add to that, Daredale?
No, I thought it was pretty impressive from Corbin to kind of do. It was like how he slides it out of the ring, runs around the post, and then slides in and delivers the lariat. But yeah, it was like Shinsuke sold it very well. It's like nice hard contact there. It's like to flip in the air. Then I also saw it's like when he was flipping though, he kind of came down and almost kicked Baron Corbin in the head too. It's like so. Very kind of combination of elements there that you're like, yeah, it's like the spot looked good, but there were some things that kind of also made it look like it was a bit ugly, but good, powerful spot there for sure.
Yeah, I hope he continues to use that clothesline. That's a pretty powerful move for him there. So moving on here to the first match from the Battleground pay-per-view, we had the Usos, who were the SmackDown Tag Champs, taking on the New Day. And this version of the New Day was actually comprised of Kofi and Xavier, with Big E watching her back on the outside. So the good for this one, and I'm going to go ahead and lead off here with this one, is because I thought that this was a much improved effort over their last pay-per-view match. Me and you even kind of got into a little tense war over that one because you were just like, no, that match wasn't that bad. And I said, Dale, that match sucked. I said it was a botch fest. They had absolutely no chemistry. I named off about probably like 3 or 4 botches. I just said it just seemed like those guys just, literally they were lost out there. So definitely a much more solid effort out of this one. There were a couple spots in particular that I really liked. The one where the missed elbow drop off the top rope and he got nailed by super kick by one of the Usos. Also, the power bomb that Kofi took once he did his little trust fall spot and he got the double power bomb on the outside. So what do you have to add to it, Dale?
Yeah, no, this one was a very good placement to open the show. But then again, you could also say maybe it was bad placement because I know that a lot of the reaction was tag team title match, started the pay-per-view off great, and then the pay-per-view just did this. And it never, ever climbed back up.
Never did.
So, but yeah, I know that when in the first one we talked about that it just kind of seemed like maybe some of the botches led to chemistry, and that's kind of where you see some of those type things, like depending on the spots. But a lot of times chemistry plays a part in whether or not they can get themselves in the spots that they're trying to run. Way improved in this one, and I love that spot where Xavier slides over to try to do the springboard elbow, and then he got caught with that super kick. Absolutely love that spot. Thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. And I can say this because you and I talked about this briefly before the show. This version of the New Day with Kofi and Xavier is much stronger than any version that they have with Big E. just because those two have a lot stronger work ethic within the ring. So I hope that they keep that combination going for a little bit. So the bad here, we both agreed on this one because we're not exactly fans of the New Day, even though we're praising their in-ring work from tonight's show, is the fact that they got the tag titles once again. They came off of a huge run where they held the belt for what seemed like almost about 3 years. We're breaking all kind of records and whatnot. I actually was a fan of the Usos holding on to the titles. I wish they would have held on to them for a little bit longer. So, Dale, what do you have to add to that?
No, I thought this run by the Usos was fantastic. I love the heel Usos right now and thought they were doing a great job being a heel team at the top of the roster. But then you kind of look at really, though, if they put away the New Day here, you kind of got to look at the tree. Who's next?
Yeah.
Is it the Fashion Police? It's like they already kind of had a shot at the Usos. They had a program, and it got moved out of the way for the New Day. She kind of like, it makes sense that it's the New Day, but it kind of stinks too because obviously, as you pointed out, the New Day is coming over from Raw after having the record run as tag team champions, and they're once again champions. And now you're like, all right, how long are we going to hold on to the SmackDown titles? I'm thinking not too long. I think that somehow whoever this team that is involved with the Fashion Police is going to probably take down the Fashion Police and then move forward into the New Day.
Very possible. So now let's talk about the ugly. I kind of brought this spot up earlier. We were talking about Kofi. He went for his trust fall. He wound up getting caught by both Usos, and he took a nasty-looking powerbomb to the floor. So, Dale, what's your take on that?
Yeah, so we can kind of take this one as a little bit of comparison. This was a spot where you kind of hold and catch Kofi and then deliver the powerbomb, and taking a powerbomb on the floor is what became the ugly part of it, as opposed to the leg drop into powerbomb in the flag match with John Cena and Rusev. But you kind of also look at it, Kofi, not a huge man like Rusev, and then you have him jumping onto two men instead of one. So how they were better able to support the fall from Kofi and into the powerbomb spot there.
All right. So we've gotten to your favorite part of the show, Dale. On the no given scale from 1 to 5, what do you give WWE Battleground 2017?
2.5.
Okay.
Maybe 2.75. It can't be anywhere near a 3. So
I was gonna say I was actually gonna be a little bit generous. I guess I'm in that kind of a mood this evening. I was gonna say a 2.75 because it definitely wasn't good. It definitely wasn't bad, and it definitely wasn't great. It was just kind of like teetering on the middle there. There wasn't anything where I was just like, oh my God, this is awful. I thought the main event was a bit on the boring side until they actually took it outside of the first, part of the structure that they were in. But yeah, I'd say a 2.75. One thing is for sure, we definitely could sit up here and talk about WWE Battleground all night long, but unfortunately we have came to the end of this episode of No Gimmicks Podcast. So thank you for tuning in for our Good, the Bad, and the Ugly recap of WWE Battleground 2017. We are No Gimmicks, no image, all wrestling, all the time. Please subscribe to our official YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/the No Gimmicks Podcast. Make sure that you subscribe publicly so that way we are aware of your support. Also, check out Craig Perkins' article, Around the Ring and Back Again, on ProWrestling.com. We would like to hear from our viewers, so please leave us some feedback in our comment section. Also, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at the No Gimmicks PC. Remember, sharing is caring. Feel free to share the links to our episodes with other professional wrestling fans and on your social media accounts as well. That does it for this episode of No Gimmicks Podcast on the 3 and Out Radio Network. For my tag team partner Dale Clifford in Fernley, Nevada, this is Todd Smith in Bristol, Connecticut signing off. Until next time around, y'all take care.